One of the greatest issues that comes before me, I like to say comes before me, is that of trust. So many times in relationships, trust can become broken, it can become fractured, it can become non-existent. And a lot of people come to me because they want to know, how do we get back to the place where we can trust each other? Now, let me say this with all honesty, with all sincerity. Trust is one of the foundations of any relationship. That's not news to you. I'm not saying anything that's novel. Trust is a foundational necessity. Without trust, relationships will not thrive, they cannot flourish, and they will not grow. They can work because there's some people who will stay in a relationship despite the non-existence of trust, and they will make it work because there's something else that they want or they're getting from the relationship. But trust, once it's destroyed, is something that needs to be rebuilt. And sometimes people believe it cannot. So today I want to talk about trust, whether it's building trust or rebuilding trust. Let's talk about trust. Now, from my experience with the relationships, one of the things I know that is truth is that when trust is broken, for example, from infidelity or cheating, as most people call it, someone steps out of the relationship, whether it's emotionally or physically or otherwise, the person who has been violated, whose trust has been violated, oftentimes finds themselves trying to force the other person to be trustworthy. That doesn't work. There's no way of making somebody who broke your trust accountable. That person has to recognize their own accountability, want to rebuild the trust, and commit to the process of rebuilding that trust within themselves first. They have to learn to trust themselves before they can prove that somebody else can trust them. And a lot of times that is misunderstood because the other person is like, well, you need to do this to show me that I can trust you. And you need to do this. And the constant barrage and insistence of setting unrealistic expectations and boundaries based on the redevelopment of trust, it further erodes the relationship. It makes it fragile and even more fragile than it started in the beginning. You cannot force someone to make you trust them. You just can't. So oftentimes I see people, they're like, well, we have to make sure that your phone is unlocked, that I have access to your phone. There's nothing wrong with these things. Make your phone is unlocked. I have to be able to look at your phone at all times. I am going to have tracking on you. I'm going to make sure I have cameras so I can see your movements when I'm not at home or when you're away from home. I want you to call me. I want you to come home directly after work. I want you not to go this way. And it goes on and on. And then sometimes you have drive-bys, there are people who actually get into their cars and they follow the person, or they go to where their car is supposed to be to see if it's there. Is that any kind of way to live? Do you want to truly live like that? Because living like that shows that there's no trust. Living like that proves that the trust is not being rebuilt. The more and more your behavior is reflective of these actions are indicative of trust not being rebuilt at all. And it cannot be rebuilt that way. You can do those things and feel comfortable, have some sense of comfort within yourself that these things are making you sleep at night or giving you a sense of peace, but there's no trust, so there's really no peace. So let's go back to what I said. The only way that trust can be truly rebuilt is if the person who broke the trust takes responsibility and accountability for their actions. If that person doesn't take accountability for what they did, if they don't believe they did anything wrong, if they believe that, their actions were just a one-off and, that they're not sincerely a cheater or sincerely a person that is hell-bent on hurting somebody else, you can't make them change. You can't bring about the change in that person that needs to take place without that person first taking accountability and responsibility for their actions. And a lot of times people will say, you know what, I want to change. I recognize what I did and I'm willing to do whatever it takes. And whatever it takes sometimes may bring you to me. And when you come to me, I'm going to tell you if this person is sincere or not. Because a lot of times people say whatever. A drowning man will say that he wants a rope every time because he doesn't want to drown. But the sincerity is really in the behavioral changes and the actions that precede the initial action that resulted in the breaking of the trust. So the sincerity is something that has to come through, and you can't do anything to precipitate that. It will naturally reveal itself. The second thing I want to talk about is, I just touched on it, how actions and behaviors must align. You know, if this person broke the trust, if this person did something to create the element of distrust in the relationship, then their actions and their behaviors should automatically show you that they're trying or they're doing better. And sometimes this is not enough for some people because the damage was so severe, or the damage was so damaging, that the person doesn't believe that the person who's trying is really trying. They don't see that effort as promising. They don't see that effort as genuine. And that's okay. It's okay. That shouldn't stop you from continuing to do what you're doing. That shouldn't stop you from changing your actions or your behavior to reflect your remorsefulness or your sincerity in wanting to heal the relationship or heal yourself. The next thing is time. The only thing that can truly heal a relationship where trust has been broken is time. If you don't have time, then I don't know what to tell you. But time is not going to happen in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I don't know when it's supposed to happen. Don't ask me that question. All I know that time is something that is needed in order for the brokenness to be resolved and for the healing to take place. Those two factors have to occur simultaneously in order for the trust to be rebuilt. And only time can facilitate that. A lot of times people are frustrated by the process. They don't want to wait on the other person. They don't want to believe in the other person. They're still dealing with their own issue of resentment, of pain, of anger, of frustration. And all of that too requires time in order for it to be resolved. Both people need to heal. It's not a healing process for just one person. Both people need to heal, the perpetrator and the person to whom the action was performed toward. Time heals everything. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't have time. And the next thing is, once you have time and you have commitment and you're committed to the process of healing and committed to the process of building back the trust, you have to set boundaries, clear boundaries. You know, I have clear boundaries in my life. One of my boundaries is I don't allow people to disrespect me because I don't disrespect myself. That's my boundary, and I've always adhered to it. How are you going to come up here and disrespect me? And I don't subscribe to that notion. Setting clear boundaries is needed in order for the trust to be rebuilt. Now, one of the boundaries that I express with my clients is this: you can't force him to make you trust him or her, because women also are perpetrators of this action. But what you can do is set a boundary for yourself and one for the relationship. The boundary for yourself should look something like this: if this happens again, this is what will happen. Point blank. That's a boundary. And you have to uphold that boundary. You have to make sure and ensure that you keep up to your end of your boundary. The other boundary is, let us do this, working towards this, so that this doesn't happen again. Let's be clear. Let's be transparent. Let's be honest. Let's talk about what we both need to do in order for this trust not to come back. And a lot of times, that's a time thing too, because a lot of people don't want to wait or be patient. Patience is key. That's the last element. You have to be patient. You have to be patient with yourself, and you have to be patient with the other person. And you have to be patient with the process. Rebuilding trust is a process. Rebuilding trust takes time. Rebuilding trust insists that you allow the universe and all the elements that are performed in healing, in the healing process to take place. And if you adhere to these things, commitment to the process, healing, forgiveness, of course, you have to forgive. And forgiving, like everybody says, forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. But what it does mean is that you're willing to move forward from the pain. You're willing to not hold on to the pain. You're willing to let go of the pain, to embrace the trust that is still there as like an ember. And that ember can only flourish if you fan it with forgiveness, time, commitment, truth, and transparency, and the willing desire to be patient. My name is Ingrid Felton. As always, thank you for visiting my YouTube channel. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for liking the videos. Thank you for telling other people about what I'm doing here. And as always, I look forward to seeing you. I look forward to having your support. It means the world to me. Without it, I could not continue to do these videos that are really hard for me to do. But I thank you and I look forward to your support. And I hope you have an amazing day. And I hope that today will be the first day that you choose to spend time and effort rebuilding the trust that is such a value in your relationship and that has been destroyed or damaged. Have an amazing day. Bye.